We've just had a magic weekend in Newcastle, and then this weekend the attention turns to the Betfred Challenge Cup. We've got the semi-finals in the men's and women's competition. These teams are just one game away from Wembley. I'm joined by two men who know all about the Betfred Challenge Cup. I'm delighted to say in the studio we have Adrian Morley and Kev Brown. Thanks for coming in, gents. Let's talk about Magic first of all. We've got a lot to talk about on and off the pitch as well, of course, Moz, but Magic, great atmosphere and some cracking games.
Absolutely fantastic. 3 of the games were decided by just 2 points, so obviously very competitive. There was a record crowd for the Sunday, and it's fantastic that it's back in Newcastle, and you'd have to say it's Magic's spiritual home, so fantastic weekend.
It is a brilliant weekend up in Newcastle, isn't it?
It is. I think, there was a stat that there's 174 pubs within a couple of mile radius, so that always helps when you wouldn't want to do a pub crawl on all 174, but for the fans, the spectacle on the field, like Moz said, so many close games, so many big games, and so much riding on them games as well, with the table and the jostling and how condensed it is. So much to look forward to, but actually in the game as well, people looking at the mathematics and where that leaves their team. It was a great weekend all around.
It was a busy sporting weekend as well. I was at Newmarket for the first classic horse races of the season, but it was great to showcase all the teams on Sky over 2 days as well, isn't it?
And that's the beauty of our sport. I don't think there's many sports that could all go into a stadium. Have hardly any drama. They're all singing, they're all dancing, a lot of fancy dress. It's just a celebration of rugby league. It's what it's all about, having fun on and off the terraces. And long may it continue.
Let's talk about some of the games. Lee just edged out Catalans. Lee are on this great run, unbeaten in 5.
Yeah, fantastic. I think Adrian Lamb's doing a terrific job.
Third in the table,
yeah, third in the table in the semi-final of the Challenge Cup. Of course, Challenge Cup winners a couple of years ago. So Adrian Lamb's doing a fantastic job there, and you can just tell there's a real buzz around the town and around the team, and they're worthy winners at the weekend.
This run by Lee started actually last June, didn't it? They were out of the playoffs, and I spoke to Adrian Lamb, and he said, yeah, it's a struggle, but he said, once we get the players coming back, he said, we'll go on a run, and they did last year, and have continued it this season, haven't they?
And but without a lot of key players too. Ben McNamara, who put the dagger in his heart of his dad's heart at the weekend, obviously the coach of Catalans, kicked the goal, scored a try. He's in there because there's injuries to Gareth O'Brien. There's a couple of forwards out. The news is that a lot of them will be back for this weekend for the Challenge Cup game, but they've been getting experience and sharing the work and getting match fitness across his squad. And I think when you've got Ipape in there and Lachlan Lamb in there and the players who have been key for all the success they've had, they can slot and change the other players, and I think them two players alone, Ipape and Lachlan Lamb, every time they touch the ball, they look like they're going to do something. And any time anyone runs at Ipape, he just looks like he gets stronger and stronger, and he's only just over 5 foot.
Lee, doing well.
Doing well, I think the real deal, and the more big games they play in, the more experience they get, the better they're going to be. So they had a fantastic win. It was my favourite game of the Super League season, actually. The first game of the season, a sellout at Wigan, and they got the win over the old rivals. It was a football score, wasn't it? But I think they're going great, and Brownie's mentioned they're going to get even more players back. So they're not third on the table by fluke. They're there on merit. Semi-final of the Cup, Adrian Lamb's really has got them buzzing, and I think they'll be favourites to go down.
Really like the look of Joe Offengawi as well. He's coming in. They're adding top class international players to an already star-studded side.
Hull KR versus Salford. Hull KR 54, Salford 0. Right, let's talk about Hull KR first of all. Top of the table, they are the real deal.
Well, yeah, job done. Very professional. Mikey Lewis, Peterick, all that X factor that they've got were just too good for Salford. But they'll be expecting much harder propositions around the corner. It's not always easy when you're coming up against Salford at the moment, because you don't really know a lot of the players they've got. Making, Vaughan, Warren, all these young players who probably are only just cutting the teeth in Super League. So for Willie Peters to review them, it's probably more about themselves. But I just feel for Salford that the longer this drags on, the less resilient they seem to be getting on the field.
Right, well, let's talk about it now. So, statement on Tuesday night. Salford Red Devils can confirm that Chris Irwin has stepped down from his role as Chief Executive, having formally tendered his resignation. The club has accepted his decision and his departure is effective immediately. A bit later on in the statement, it says, "Our focus remains firmly on the future as we continue to build on the progress made both on and off the field. The journey ahead is an exciting one and we remain committed to our vision for growth, community engagement and long-term success." Right, as we sit here now, you've obviously got an obvious connection with Salford, your boyhood club, etc. You finished your career there, you played for Salford. What I would say, we do not know in the studio what is going on at Salford. And that uncertainty is no good for players and their livelihoods. They've all got mortgages and families, but it's no good for the fans either, Moz. You know, there's die-hard fans of Salford right now. I've got no idea what is going on and what the future will be for their club.
It's an absolutely terrible situation for everyone involved in the club, fans in particular, but I just want to clarify, Chris Irwin didn't hand his resignation in, he got released by the owners. But I'm just wondering what the owners' game is.
How do you know that? I'm not doubting you. But...
No, I'm mates with Chris. And right. When I heard the news, I did ring him to see if he was okay, and he said he feels awful. You know, he's done a fantastic job. I want to put on record, he's done a fantastic job under virtually impossible situation. He wants what's best for the club. He's a Salford lad. He's done a fantastic job, and to be treated like this, I think it's disgusting. So the owners, I don't know what their game is. You know, they come into the club. They promise to save the club, to invest money. They've put virtually no money into the club, and I just really don't know what their end game is. So that's the position we're at. Obviously, they've had to lose a lot of players. They're not making any types of statements. You've mentioned the fans, they're in the dark, everyone's in the dark, and it's just an absolutely awful position to be in.
So you'd like the new owners to come out, tell the fans what's going on and what their plans are.
Exactly, that's all we need, just a bit of clarity. And you know, if you can ask the question, why have you not done what you said you're going to do? Why are you letting the club basically lose players, and they could potentially, you know,
who knows what's ahead?
Who knows what's ahead? They could potentially not even be a club. So why come and say you're going to do this, that, and the other, and just not do it? So it's a mystery, but they need to address the fans.
Kev, how do you view all this?
It's just sad. It's just devastating for everyone who's been involved with Salford. Everyone who's involved in Rugby League wants to see Salford. You know, that's a club that have been around forever, and it looks like it's going to get. It's not only getting torn apart. It looks like it could cease to exist. And I completely agree with Moz. I feel so sorry for Chris Irwin. He came in, you know, and was promised so much. Like everyone thought it was the start of the good times. You know, and they were going to get money, they were going to get financial backing, they were going to go and crack Manchester, they were going to make the stadium into a place where it's not just rugby, it was all about entertainment, and then it's just not eventuated. For me, it's almost decaying. It's a death by 1,000 cuts, and the only people who are suffering are people who are connected with the club, the players, the staff, the fans, the people who have sponsored the club, the past players, myself and Moz, who have been connected to the club. We all know how good that place is, how many good people have put their lives to that place. So now it's just so sad, and we just need an ending to this, because the players, you know, they're almost resilient to it now because it's been going on for so long. But it's just not fair. It's not fair for anyone. You know, this isn't the dream of a rugby player. This isn't the dream of a fan. This is a nightmare, and it needs to come to an end. And the ownership group, whoever that is, needs to come and just show some front up themselves
and put an end to this uncertainty.
Put an end to it, and just say, look, this is where we're going. If the statement's right, it's about the longevity. Well, show us exactly how that's going to look. But at the minute, I don't believe a word they say, because it's just everything that's been said so far has just not eventuated.
I'm afraid it is very much watch this space regarding Salford. It does seem to be changing very, very quickly. We don't know in the studio what is going on, but I think you've heard from Moz and Kevin there basically saying to come and speak out and give the players and the fans some certainty and try and tell what the situation is and what is going on, because we are speculating in the studio right now. Right, moving on. St Helens, Leeds. What's going on at St Helens?
How long have you got? I think there's a couple of things going on when I look at the squad. They've got some terrific young players coming in, but I think they're being relied on too heavily right at this moment in time. And I think some of the players who have done such a fantastic job for the last decade they've seen the better days. And then I think the recruitment that they've gone into, the players that they've brought in, they're not bad players, but they're almost replicas of what they've got. For me, Tristan Saylor and Jack Welsby, that's just going to keep playing out. The scenario where Paul Wellens put Tristan Saylor onto the wing and brought Johnny Lomax on and took John Bennison off, I just think, there's three players there that are probably all upset with the situation. I think you probably need to go, we'll do that before. Everyone's calling for Paul and is he going? I don't think he should. I think he's a great coach. I know Lee Breers and Eamon O'Carroll, great coaches. I do think they'll get through it, but I don't think it's going to be a quick fix.
No, I agree with Brownie. I think Wello's a terrific coach, and all the points Brownie's made, potentially an ageing team, not recruited particularly well, but they're still competitive. But St Helens is a club that expects success. Over the last 10 years, they've been in these major finals, so probably won't happen this year now. But I don't think that's a reason to start calling for the coach's head. I think give him a bit of time and see how he develops the players. But it's a tough. We all know how tough coaching is, and I do feel for Wello at the moment. But I do think they will come good eventually. But it's tough times at the moment.
A big result for your old club, Leeds.
Yeah, massive. And we've spoke about how inconsistent Leeds are or have been, but they seem to have been getting it right more times than wrong this year, and I think they've won 6 games now out of the possible 10. But it was a big win. Anytime Leeds play, Saints, it's always one of the two powerhouses, and they didn't even look like losing, did they? It was a really polished performance, and that'll just breed confidence then. So hopefully they need to back it up, because they've been good one week, not so good the next. But if they can, string a few wins together, come playoff time, you could see the Rhinos back up there, yeah, and they've not been in there for a few years, have they?
Going into the weekend, we promised £180 for every try celebration to go to M&D. We also promised £1,000 for the best celebration, and it was quite easy to pick. It was on Saturday, and it was Lee's Ethan O'Neill. And look at this celebration. Talk us through this one, Kev.
Well, I think if it was the worst celebration and the best one, he'd get both. First of all, he starts and he slips and falls over, but then completely redeems himself by somehow standing on his head. Beautiful celebration. I love the fact that Betfred have put that out and all the players got into it, and so many people say, what's it all about? And it's not just the money, but it's the awareness that you raise by all the players goofing around, and as we saw there, sometimes getting it right, sometimes getting it wrong.
We rounded it up to 10 grand, by the way. We rounded up to 10 grand to MND. And absolute pleasure to be in a position to do that. Right, let's move to Sunday's game. Huddersfield got off the mark, 12-10 against Hull. Yeah, and I'll be honest, I didn't see Huddersfield's first win coming this weekend.
No, the way Hull have been going, you wouldn't have thought they would have got the win, but it's great that Huddersfield, with the last Super League team, yet to register a win. So it's great that every club in the Super League now have got at least one win next to their name. So Huddersfield, I do feel for the club and for Robbo. They have had a terrible injury roster. Someone was saying the amount of players and the amount of money, the amount of salary cap on the sideline is crazy. But if and when they do start getting these boys back, if they can pick up a couple of wins, get a bit of confidence, there's no reason why they can't start climbing the table. And I do think they've got a very great squad, but they need to keep them fit. So great that they got off the mark. But yeah, I didn't see that one coming. So really pleased for Luke Robinson and pleased for the Giants.
Hopefully for Huddersfield and their fans, something for them to build on.
Yeah, I think they've slowly started getting them players back. Zach Wolford, I don't think they win the game without Wolford and Clune. I thought Clune was sensational. And I think there's little wins along the way. George Flanagan, the way he's playing, he's slotted in now. We've been nowhere near that team at the start of the year, but I think Hull were the downfall themselves, weren't they? They had a minute of madness where Sam Esse decided to do an Adrian Morley, and then Liam May followed it on and decapitated Sam Hewitt. So, look, Huddersfield needed a bit of luck, didn't they? They've got the players back, and then they needed that bit of luck, and they got that.
Well, let's hear from the Huddersfield camp and get some reaction from Ashton Goulding.
No, not at all. Look at the stadium, look at the fans, look at the people here. You know, we always struggle to get that first win, but to do it in front of different opposition spectators, it just shows, you know, we can perform on the stage. It's just about a bit of consistency within our performances. But look, one domino falls. Hopefully we can get it to keep going now.
You've done it so tough this season with injuries and players being missing. It must be such a good feeling to share that with this group and get one over the line.
Yeah, look, I'm really hopeful, you know, that this can be the turning point in our season. You know, we're wearing purple and hopefully we have a good purple patch moving forward. You know, as a group of men, we put a lot of ownership and pressure on ourselves this week. We had a bit of a meeting at the start of the week, and it really got, you know, we got to know each other at even deeper on a deeper level. And the meaning behind the shirt, you know, in pre-season we went and visited this place, and we're just really happy that we could get awareness to these people for much needed funds that they need, and equally just on the back of that, just show the people what we know we can do in our group. Look, we're not there yet. It's one win out of many that we need, but it's in the right direction. Look, I'm proud of this group of men. We have done it tougher than most, but that's no excuse. I think what you've got to understand is Rugby League's tough in itself. To step on that field from our team or theirs, I've got massive respect for either team, but luckily and thankfully we came away with the spoils today.
Ashton Goulding saying we know we can do it, so hopefully Huddersfield will take some confidence from that. Next up was an absolute cracker, Wigan versus Warrington.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't expect it to be a cracker purely because of the personnel missing for Warrington. Wigan were loaded, they had a week off after this, and Warrington are going into a cup final. But what I would say about Warrington, since they've had a fair few injuries, they've galvanised together. I think Sam's done a great job of the players who he's brought in have all competed hard. And if it wasn't for, you know, a goal kick or two, they'd have snatched that game. So terrific performance. I think they'd have snatched their hand off before the game. You know, even losing, I think that was a moral victory going into the semi-final this week.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what team you put out for Warrington against Wigan, it's the old enemy. So they were going to rise to the occasion. I thought they did fantastically well, and as Brownie said, even though they didn't get the 2 points, you know, you can take loads of positives from that game, and they'll need it because it's going to be a really tough semi-final next week. But the boys did themselves proud. Fantastic game to watch, and yeah, it was could have gone either way. You're right.
And we finished the weekend with a great performance by Wakefield.
Yeah, they're just getting better and better, aren't they? I think they're another team that, you know, I think they're sat at 8th at the minute, but they win a game or two and then they're right up in the top 4. So I think they're going to become a danger throughout the rest of the season. I think the way Darryl Powell's got them playing already, some of the new boys and some of the players, I saw the try by the front row was just sensational. Yeah. And but yeah, Mike McMeekin's playing really well. Ollie Pratt. If Jake Truman can stay fit and get back to anywhere near what we expected him to, I think they'll knock a few good teams off and be real contenders at the back end of this year.
You mentioned this try by Caius Fartilli. This is out of your textbook, isn't it, Moz? What a try of a weekend!
Fantastic.
How good is this, by the way?
Speed for the big
for
man.
a front rower.
Absolutely
How
fantastic.
good is this?
I don't remember running that far for any of my tries throughout my career, but brilliant for the front rowers club. He done the boys proud. And what I want to also mention is Kylie Lulai, another front rower. He got inducted into the Leeds Rhinos Hall of Fame last night, so well done for the front rowers.
Good stuff. Right then, we had some magic moments across the weekend. It wasn't just the players celebrating, the fans were celebrating too.
Well, we've landed at St James's Park for Magic Weekend, and of course, all weekend, Betfred are giving £180 to the MND Association for every unique and special try celebration. Now, we're in the fan zone, so let's go and see if we can get some inspiration for the players.
Great stuff, and we raised £10,000. So well done to all the players getting behind it, well done to all the fans getting behind it as well. Right, it's Betfred Challenge Cup semi-final weekend. First of all, on Saturday, in the women's competition, we've got the Leeds Rhinos versus the Wigan Warriors. Leeds were beaten finalists last year, of course. Wigan have improved dramatically, but it's great that these women's games are on the same day.
Yeah, and if anyone knows about winning Challenge Cups, the coach of Wigan Warriors, Dennis Betts, he'll be able to put all his experience in there. And they have recruited really well, but a lot of them girls at Wigan now, they've come through the system. I just love the fact that there's so many girls now playing Rugby League. I think, you know, it used to be netball and hockey, and now it's Rugby League. They love it, don't they? They want to replicate what the men are doing, and good on them. And I think this game's going to be a cracker of what is the cracking semi-finals of four ties.
Yeah, and Sunday it's St Helens versus York Valkyrie on the Sunday. York Valkyrie are the champions of the Women's Super League. St Helens are the champions of the Challenge Cups. This is a good tie.
Yeah, they've pinched a few players off York, haven't they, St Helens? You know, and both have swapped. I think the winger has gone there as well. She went there obviously with Taylor Pemberton. So again, there's so many storylines. I think Saints will be the favourites for this, but Clint Goodchild, what he's done at York, he really values the Valkyrie, and you know, he's made it a priority of his that them girls start getting paid and they start being competitive, and they're the four best teams in the competition by a long way. And it's up to everyone else to catch them, but you could pick any one of them and make an argument for them being Challenge Cup winners in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely cracking that the final is at Wembley, as it should be. Right then, Moz, Hull KR versus Catalan Dragons. Obviously, you've got to fancy Hull KR to get to another Challenge Cup final. Yeah,
I just think their confidence is sky high at the moment. They've only lost one game in Super League. Obviously, played in the Challenge Cup final not too long ago, so that memory will be in a lot of the players' mind, and I just think Hull KR will be too strong for the Catalan Dragons.
How do you see the first men's semi?
I can't disagree with Oz. I think Hull KR, if they play to the best, they win. But what I would say is, I played in a Challenge Cup against Catalans when it was very heavily stacked in our favour, and we got beat. What I would say, Catalans have got. We mentioned front rowers. You know, with Pangai Jr. and Sims and Whitehead, Ollie Parkinson, they've got a pack that can go after everyone. If they can dominate, and they will have to dominate, they can't just hold their own because the backs are too good for Hull KR. If they can actually go out and dominate with and without the ball, then they stand a chance. Steve's a great coach, he'll have a motivate. It's almost a free hit because the ground's going to be sold out. Well, it's sold out, but it's all going to be red and white. They don't stand a chance. That's the narrative he's going to build this week. They'll go there on an ambush job, and I expect it to be much closer than people think.
Sunday, I keep changing my mind, Moz. Lee versus Warrington. Obviously, you lifted a trophy for Warrington. I just don't know. Lee have just got this bit of momentum, haven't they? Unbeaten in 5, won it a couple of years ago. Adrian Lamb doing a great job. I think this is turning into a toss of a coin for me, Lee versus Warrington.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, toss of a coin, but just the amount of quality personnel Warrington are missing probably stacks it in Lee's favour. And you know, obviously they won it a couple of years ago, and that's as I say, when you do get a bit of success, you want more and more. So I just think Lee will probably be favourites, but it's a compelling game, and yeah, it's very, very close. And the boys who are going to take the field for Warrington, if you can't raise the game for a semi-final, you know, there's only one game big, and that's the actual final. So it's going to be an absolute cracker, this one. But I just think Lee.
Yeah, again, I think Lee are the favourites, but Warrington are in good form, regardless of who they've got. They beat St Helens in the last round. You know, they were very close against arguably the best team in the competition at the moment in Wigan. But it's going to be a fantastic game. In these big games, it's not often, you know, the bit of skill. It's often down to, you know, how hard you run, how hard you tackle, your kicking game. And I think Warrington have got a lot of that in their squad. There is probably a bit more quality in Lee Leopards, but that's not always what wins them big games.
But fingers crossed, we'll have two cracking semi-finals.
Yeah, they're both mouth-watering games coming up.
Both live on the BBC as well.
And let's hope we can get, you know, big crowds at both games. You know, because Challenge Cup games, you can tend to get disappointing crowds. But if Magic's anything to go by, these are two fantastic fixtures. There's not much more bigger on the line than an appearance at Wembley in a Challenge Cup final. So I can't wait for these two games. Yeah.
And you obviously lifted it. What does it mean to lift the trophy as skipper?
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. Before the grand final come along, the Challenge Cup final was the biggest event on the Rugby League calendar. Was very fortunate to play in a few finals and lift the trophy. But you know, I won it with Leeds in '99, which was amazing. But to be actually asked to go up and lift the trophy as captain is something very, very special. And got to do it a couple of times as well, Mark. So it was amazing. It's the memories you never forget playing in a Challenge Cup final. So yeah, there's a lot on the line, and I'm sure the boys will be using that as motivation this weekend. Yeah,
still at the forefront of British sport then, the Challenge Cup?
Oh, definitely. When you're a kid and you're growing up and you, well, I saw him as a kid growing up lifting the trophy, but I actually saw him on a field when I was gutted lifting the trophy. So you say you never forget him, you want to do sometimes, but they are the best days in sport. It's everyone travelling down to London.
I didn't want to ask you about your finals record. That's been nice.
He was definitely going to ask. But no, it's what it's all about. Win or lose, the fans go down there and have a party, don't they? And again, they get on. It's a great occasion. Lots of drinks, lots of food, and a great game.
Well, gents, thanks for coming in. So enjoy the semi-finals of the Betfred Challenge Cup.